with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into George's thoughts. Now, having heard what we heard and what we said, let's hear some of George's thoughts. This is like, again, at the Cannes Film Festival. They honored him, gave him like a Lifetime Achievement Award, and they had an interview and asked some questions about different things. How he got started, but especially what we're going to focus on is Star Wars. So we're just going to play through this clip and pause it here just to give our thoughts, and then you can comment your thoughts as well.
I do apologize. Keep it PG.
I do apologize for the audio. For some reason, Cannes didn't actually release the interview officially. People in the crowd, though, were able to record it and post it. So this is someone who was up front recording. So I do apologize for the audio. We'll try to beef it up if needed to make it sound a little bit better for you. So let's go ahead and watch this, Brian. And we'll talk about it if I can get this open. There we go.
All right. There's that face again.
It was hard in the end because I wanted to do the prequels, but I knew that, I was just going to do whatever I wanted. I wasn't going to make something that would try to be a bigger hit than Star Wars. So I did 1, 2, and 3, and 1, which got completely trashed. When 1 came out, it was the beginning of the internet. It was the first film we did, because I'd spent 10 years developing digital technology.
You could say something.
In order to make.
I just love his sneakers. This dude's like...
Oh, those are the Air Monarchs. I mean, if you want to take a second to appreciate George Lucas'
this dude's
swag,
just... I was going to say, let's go over this real quick.
He's never changed.
He's not let Hollywood change him.
No, he's always kept it. Like, I
Through
want to
and
get to
through.
that point where I can just wear
You
the
are
same
at that
thing.
point. That's how you dress every day.
Well,
but he wears the like Skechers that you're like white Skechers.
Those are
Velcro, so that your dad
100%
would wear.
Air Monarchs. Search Nike Air Monarchs.
How much does a pair of those go?
They're the quintessential dad shoe. I think they're like maybe
40 bucks,
maybe like $60 to $80, something like
Good
that.
for this dude's a millionaire. He's wearing $60 Nikes that my dad mows the lawn in.
He's humble, man.
Grills in.
He's humble.
Do you think he has some green stains on them? Do you think he's not mowing his lawn?
No, he's definitely not
paying somebody to mow it.
Yeah. So I think it's
Sweatpants?
Again, even in this first couple of things, it's telling that he said like he knew he wasn't going to he wasn't going out to make something bigger than his original thing. He wanted to make something kind of fresh and new.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, because I knew that there would be a big battle with Yoda and things like that I couldn't possibly do with a puppet, and so we had to come up with another way of creating all that stuff. And there were a lot of stuff that,
The Yoda and Phantom Menace is really bad.
We could do that we couldn't do before. So we did it, and of course, the critics and the fans who had been 10 years old when they saw the first one, and then they were 13, and then they were. It's a children's film. I don't want to see a children's film. That's terrible. That Jar Jar is terrible. I said, everybody said the same thing about 3PO. That guy's so irritating. Why don't you get rid of him?
Shit.
George is going off.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? Listen up, assholes.
So I've heard him say this before, that the prequels the reason why he had things like Jar Jar and the silliness and everything was that he said overall Star Wars was always supposed to be more tailored to kids. It's supposed to be a little bit more lighthearted. He said that like a while. So he said one of the big criticisms that the people that had watched the original trilogy, by the time the prequels came out, they were like full-blown adults.
Yeah, that was 20, 30 years later, right?
Yeah, so he's basically saying that, that's why there was some criticisms because it seemed more silly. But he would argue that even going back to the original trilogy, it was always intended for a younger crowd, which I wouldn't say, like, there's not really crazy, overwhelmingly dark themes besides like Return of the Jedi, like Luke choking out those Gamorreans before he goes into Jabba's palace.
You like to get choked out.
And like Vader too, like, choking people. I guess that's kind of you always gotta throw in those one-liners. They're great. You're on fire today.
What I'm thinking though is like you and I were kids when The Phantom Menace came out. I loved it. Well, you may have been older than me.
I'm not that much. Yeah.
Well, when were you born? 91.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to put that out there?
Yeah. It's already out there. So you were. You just gotta look it up. Mm-hmm. You're that famous. So what? You were 8 when that movie came out. I was 7.
Wow, huge gap.
That's what she
huge
said.
learning gap there between the two.
You were 8 years old. I was 7. Okay,
Right.
but where I'm getting at in all reality though is like you and I loved this when we were young. So like
Yeah.
he did it right. It was
Right.
tailored to kids. I absolutely the criticisms you hear. Well, it's kind of funny because it's coming back around again. That it's like almost become like I don't even know if you can call it this, but like a cult classic almost. Where some people
I'd
like
say it's more. I would say more than
It's-
a cult
yeah, it's not a cult
I feel
classic,
like it's
but
disrespectful. But
I know I kind of thought that
how
too.
dare you.
I'm sorry, but
No, it's had a new love.
But I was
that's
going to say,
built.
it's had a new love of people that were criticizing before, but now you watch, you're like, all right. And you know why that is? Because the sequel trilogy is so hated right now.
I would say one could argue that because
Like people
the Disney when you
hate
compare
has
it,
shifted.
yeah, when you compare it to the Disney Star Wars and what they've now put out, now that we've had a good slate of content to compare to, the old expression, you don't know what you got till it's gone, I think plays into it when we think of the prequels.
Yeah,
so
that's how you felt about your grandparents.
let's get to the meat and potatoes of this thing.
There was a huge thing about getting rid of 3PO. And then when I did the third one, the Ewoks
flowers.
said, well, those are little teddy bears, those are little kids. This is a kid's movie. We don't want to see a kid's movie. We want to see an adult film. I said, it's a kid's movie. It's always been a kid's movie. It is a kid's movie.
Like dropping bars.
Was as surprised as anybody in the first one and the first 3 that everybody from 5 years old to 85 years old liked it all over the world, everywhere. And that was, I said, wow. Because there are certain aspects of that movie which say, they would say, well, it's not...
Okay, so here's where he's going to touch on,
I was watching it.
which is what I talked about, is diversity in Star Wars. That he got criticisms
God.
about, there wasn't a lot of women roles or strong women roles. There wasn't a lot of, I guess people of color, as they call them now.
I would never
And-
say those words.
And you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of diversity. So this is George's arguments to that. And it just goes to show that, like, and listen to how he gives the intention to his characters. To him, it was the character first and then the race. Like, he wasn't doing it. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like,
Yeah, it wasn't.
I need a
purely based on
woman.
that.
Okay, women first, and then we'll worry about what exactly her motives or what she is.
Yeah,
I have a strong character, a general, a leader of the rebellion, Leia, that I want to put in. And she happens to be a woman. And I think that mindset's lost nowadays.
yeah.
And-
But that goes back to what we were talking about. Write the characters properly,
Right. And that's
and
what I'm
then
saying.
cast.
And this goes back to that connection of George Lucas and Star Wars. So let's just hear what he says here.
I'm excited.
It's all white men. I said,
God,
most of the people in there are aliens. And the idea is that you're supposed to accept people for what they are, even if they're big and furry, or whether they've got they're green and whatever.
But to go and argue that Star Wars has never had a message or, an underlying context to whatever kind of, normal day social interactions that we
Yeah.
have or injustices or things like that. It's always been there. The thing, though, it doesn't overtake the story itself.
Yeah,
He's
it's
always
not the
had
main-
intention to
it's not the
have
focus.
meanings. You find it out after the fact. It's something that you dig into after and say, you know what? I realize how they treated. He's going to mention about how they treat robots, droids. They always say their kind's not allowed in here.
yeah.
He's always touching on these things, but it doesn't overtake it and make it stand out so much that it then distracts you from the actual story itself.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'll
let's
finish
move
my. I'll put my 2
The
cents in
idea
later.
is all the people are equal. The only people that aren't, which was in there, are the robots. Well, you can't come in here. We don't like your kind
AI.
here. So they were the only ones that were discriminated against, and that was a way
He
of
actually says
saying, people always discriminate against something, and sooner or later, that's what's going to happen. And we're already starting it with AI, saying, well, we can't trust
called
those
it.
Oh,
robots.
damn.
I
I may have
do
cheated.
everything. Take my temperature. I have my, all my vital signs things. If it comes out wrong, I just say, well, I don't trust the robots. Whatever it is, we'll do it again tomorrow. So, but that was a main part of that movie was to make people realize that everybody is equal, no matter where they're from, no matter what they look like. That is the important thing, and it's all over. I mean, the whole movie is that way. The other part of that was they said, well, when they, the critics kept saying, well, there's no, what we mean is there's no black people in the movie. Well, in the first one, there were a few Tunisians who were dark, but in the second one, I had Billy Williams, and in the third one, and in the new ones, which they were also criticizing, I had Sam Jackson. He was like he wasn't a scoundrel.
Focal point.
Yeah, a huge point. That's a huge point to make too. It's like it's not like he only was casting particular races as
Just to check a box.
Well, no, not just that, but like he wasn't casting, the black folks as smugglers and
Whoa, watch yourself.
No, I'm
Watch yourself.
because Lando. The criticism with Lando is that he cast a black guy as Lando, but then Lando's like this, swindler, and he's kind of like a scoundrel. He steals stuff and everything. But then on the flip side, in the prequels, you get Mace Windu, who's like a stoic, a high in the Jedi Order, a very accomplished person, strong person,
one of the best lightsabers out there.
great lightsabers. So it's like, and that's the thing. And it's like, how could you point my point is that if we're purist for Star Wars and our comparison is George Lucas's intention for Star Wars, and he already had these things in place, how could you possibly call us toxic? When we are considering this, we've always had a reverence for the characters that he's had who happen to be black, who happen to be women, strong female characters, strong black, and again,
Gay.
and I'm not trying to say that everything, there's, well, that's a whole nother thing. I don't know about any gay characters that's not what comes up here.
You told me Count Dooku was gay.
Count Dooku is definitely not gay. He was slinging so much Dathomirian
I'm just
female. I mean, he was getting down with the Night Sisters, man. Do you know what kind of
I'm
freaky
just
stuff?
saying,
You know what kind of freaky stuff the Night Sisters are into?
why are you getting so irate
Did you
right
see
now?
Ahsoka? You saw,
I saw Ahsoka.
Morgan Elsbeth?
Yes, I don't know why you're getting so irate.
I'm just saying.
You're the one who told me Count
Don't
Dooku was
insult-
gay. You said that's why his lightsaber was curved.
Look, hey, I'm sure in the universe there's an alien, getting down with another male alien, and they're.
Do you think
you know-
Yoda was bisexual?
I have no clue, but that is a rabbit hole I do not want to
I'm
go
just
down.
wondering.
So,
You told me that.
but let's
I'm just crossing
Let's-
all the bases. You need to talk about this.
let's stay on target.
I'm on target.
and hit this target. And let's talk about. He's going to talk about also women, which I like because he's going
Do you like women? Are you sure?
I do. No, what I mean is the woman.
we got him.
The wo-
We got him. We got him.
Wait a minute. The woman. You're on fire today.
Dude, he gets so passionate. It takes one word to completely
So-
derail everything you're saying right now.
So he's going to talk about a female character that I think you both and I appreciate, which is Leia,
Oh yeah.
and how much
Wasn't
you
that your
can
nickname in high
tell.
school?
You can tell how much he loved. Why? You can
Laying
tell
on your
how
back.
much he cared about the character of Leia and how much
Yeah.
he put into it. So just let's listen to that part so you can.
I did.
see
Just
what I'm
side
coming
note,
from.
I tried the. Well, I wasn't.
Sorry.
I was talking. I told Michelle. I told Michelle if we had another daughter,
Mhm.
I said I'd like to name her Leia, so I can have Rhea. We call her Ray, and Leia. Not going to call her Leia because that's inappropriate. But
Mhm.
she said no.
Yeah.
Let's
Well, I
continue.
apologize for that.
Yeah, thank
Maybe
you.
we can swear some way.
What?
We can swear.
Dude, you're
We
sick.
can change her mind.
What the hell are you talking about?
All right. Maybe we can try Jedi mind trick. We'll keep it on par.
Oh,
and
why
see if
did
we
you
can-
just say that? You didn't have to say you want to be a swinger.
Well,
Let's play.
all right.
Like,
Seems to get lost sometimes.
yeah, like
Lando.
Lando.
somebody hidden.
I forgot to
this
mention
dude
this.
recording had to yell it out so he can remember his
And
own
the funny
character.
thing is, the guy
Lando.
The guy comments.
Yeah, that black guy.
The guy comments. He
Like
forgot.
I had a black
he
guy.
forgot Lando's name for like a hot second.
But he did say Billy Williams.
he
so
did.
he
just
remembered,
forgot.
but then he's
He
like
just forgot the character.
well-known
name.
black character.
Yeah, but it's funny because the guy was like, the guy that recorded this commented, and he's like, how awesome is it that I got to like correct George Lucas
Yeah.
on his own character?
What was that black guy I wrote in the one story? Does anybody know?
Lando.
Lando. Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But at least he knew Billy Williams.
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Yeah. He knows who he casted.
Yeah.
But he was one of the top Jedi. He was like and
Is he struggling?
wanted to be in it so bad
I mean, he's older.
that all he really wanted
He
was
hasn't
a
aged
purple
in like
sword.
10 years. 2 years. He looks the exact
And
same.
so I said,
Yeah.
great. No, but we paid him a regular salary. But the secret to
At least
Sam,
Pam was. That's
who's
good.
a
I don't know
fantastic
why I felt the need
actor
to say that.
and has been in a gazillion movies, his agent said, don't tell him that, we could get a big thing out of it. I said, look, it's a small part. It's the best I can do.
Oh, Lando. I thought he
I
was
may
still
be able
talking
to
about
extend the other two
Samuel L.
movies.
Jackson.
He
This
is.
could be a key character.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. He's talking
Nice,
about. He's talking
okay.
about Mace Windu now.
So, but he did it for very little. But I gave him a percentage, but it wasn't net. It wasn't gross. It was net. And for us,
So he didn't pay him.
because I was financing them myself,
oh my
net and
God.
gross were the same thing.
No, he paid him.
So,
He doesn't need to break all this down. It's
Yeah,
kind
he's
did
of
that,
look,
but the other
this
part of
dude's
it
getting a
was
little
they
too
said
into the weeds. He's like, I
later
paid him with
on,
pennies. Well,
we're making more movies. They said, there's
still
no
gone.
women in the movies.
Here we go.
okay, here we go.
So this is the part.
Pause on the
Sorry.
face. That was you on the toilet. Sweet.
Oh, we got the giggles today. Let me tell you. All right, let's. No, but this is a really
That was
cool.
your
I
face.
want you to hear this point because this is really cool.
I love women. You're the one who just everybody.
I love women
I
so
like
much.
women
I make
so
this
much.
face. All right,
Who do you think the heroes are in those films?
listen.
What do you think Princess Leia was?
Yep.
She is the head of the rebellion. She's the one
Oh.
that's taking this young kid that doesn't know anything and this boisterous,
Watch it.
I know everything guy who can't do anything and
That's Han.
trying to
Yeah, he's talking about Han and Luke.
save the rebellion with these clowns. I said, she's the hero of the movie. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. Even though she has Jedi on her side,
There's some respect on her
she
name.
was still the hero prime mover. And they said, well, but there's no women, I said, you can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses, they can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and do and plan and be logistical and
The ability to
that's,
think
That's
and
what
have
the hero
brains.
is. Yes, all the women, they couldn't do lightsabers, but they could shoot guns and they could, And we also did a thing where we didn't really, we killed robots, stormtroopers, aliens, but we very rarely killed humans. That was kind of a idea that goes through the movie, but everybody thinks of it as a movie where you kill everybody, but we don't.
I got a question from the internet.
So real quick, I mean, again, that goes to my point that he's always had, and the thing, that's the argument too. Like when you hear these arguments that Star Wars somehow has been, frankly, has never had strong
It's getting
female
emotional.
roles or hasn't had, women in lead roles. I mean, it's false. When you look at Leia, when you look at Amidala,
Yeah.
when you look at Ahsoka, who
What are you yelling at me for?
I'm just saying,
And I rate with me.
and this is what's confusing to me is when you have the president and people, these executives behind Lucasfilm making these comments and just splitting things right down the middle and putting people in camps, when clearly that was never something that I'm seeing from the man himself who created it.
no, it's
That
also
was something that he was trying to purposely do. It's not something that crossed his mind that he was trying to alienate a particular group or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, I don't think he was getting as much as criticism when it first came out 25 years ago when the Phantom Menace came out,
Right.
and further before that when the original trilogy got hit. So got hit when the original trilogy dropped. So it's like it's a different world we live in, and as we know,
yeah,
people
clearly-
like to get triggered over everything and anything. So they're
But again-
criticizing stuff that came out, the prequel trilogy 25 years ago, and then before that, another 50 years. I mean, it was a different world that time, but at the same time, like it couldn't have been that bad because people weren't saying anything, or at least to the result they are now. But like people weren't saying that much back then
Yeah.
because they did have I mean, every series had a lead woman who was a focal point of the series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have Leia,
You're saying
Amidala.
You're saying the movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because if we want to take it to TV shows as well, I mean, at the time, I'm not talking about Disney Plus shows, but if we're going to talk about, Clone Wars and stuff like that, like, yeah.
Ahsoka was in
Ahsoka.
there. You had Asajj Ventress, which was more of a villain type, but she was a big character, female character that was on. You had the Night Sisters, which I mentioned before. There's always been that presence. And again, this is why I'm like,
Count Dooku slayed them with his dick.
well,
That's what you said.
Sorry if I
That was
objectified them. I apologize. But that's the thing, and that's what makes me like, I don't think this is good PR with the Acolyte coming out, having George do this interview. That's I'm like, I don't know if this was a coincidence. I don't know if this is someone that's like,
he probably saw that tweet and was like, you know what, I'm going off.
Yeah, I'm going to mention it. I mean, but they asked it.
He
They're
probably
the ones...
does get sick of it, though. I mean, you can tell this dude's like tired of it. He's like,
Right.
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think all PR is good PR. I don't think all press is good press, because to me, this is something, I think, like I said, this kind of shows the perspective that a lot of us, traditional fans have been about. We've been about what George Lucas is about, and clearly George Lucas never had any intentions
and that's
to ostracize someone or oppress someone or do anything or alienate people out of his creative process and what he was doing.
And
he just had a story to tell and something.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is like, it's what we talked about earlier. People making assumptions. Everyone makes assumptions. And you're hearing it right from the goat's mouth.
Yeah.
There was no intent in there to alienate or to minimize a specific race or, gender on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It was, he wanted the right characters to be written in properly, to be casted properly, and he didn't feel it was necessary to have an overwhelming amount of them if you have one powerful character that kind of fills that role, which is what he's saying, which they did. It's like he said, I mean, the more the merrier isn't always better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, focus in on one character and write that character right and let them lead. It's just, I mean, it seems to me to be common sense. You would think people would understand this and be like, makes sense. Let's move on. But you're always still going to have that little
and I think,
group that gets pissed
and
regardless.
Not for us to be on any pedestal or anything like that, but it's like,
I'm dumb as hell.
I want to do this to just kind of show the different perspectives in this world. So we're giving one side of it from like Kathleen Kennedy and the executives and what they feel, and then we're giving George Lucas's perspective. You can take it however you want, but I think it's worth still getting. I think his insight and his perspective still matters, because again, we wouldn't have Star Wars without him. None of this would be here. Disney wouldn't be wanting to acquire anything in Lucasfilm. Like Lucasfilm, the main runner, the main driving force behind Lucasfilm was George Lucas. I mean, his name is in the actual name of the
George Lucas
itself.
Lucasfilms people put it together.
I think it is still worth it for us to listen to what he has to say, and I think what he's saying is very important, honestly, and that's something too. So let me just finish up what he's going to say here. He's going to talk about Empire and then also a little bit about Disney, and then there's something I want to wrap up on a positive note and say that I think there is a way that we can kind of bridge the gap with Star Wars content, where maybe George Lucas can meet halfway, and there is a way to do it. So I'm going to just throw out there hypotheticals. I don't think it's actually going to happen, but I think it's a way that we can get the best of both worlds. So that's a little hint for you to stay tuned.
I have a feeling you think that him and Kathleen Kennedy should fight to the death. Whoever wins.
No, a little more lighthearted than that. Oh. But stay tuned for that little cliffhanger towards the end here. So let's just finish up this video, and then we'll give our closing thoughts here.
By Mathieu Baillargeon, and I think it's a beautiful question.
What does he say?
I don't remember the Danny Boyle movie yesterday, who imagined a world without the Beatles. Can you imagine a world without Star Wars?
This is a good question. So in case you didn't catch it, he said, can you imagine a world without Star Wars?
Right. He's throwing punches at me verbally because I was talking.
Just in case, because the audio is also...
You hear that.
No, the audio too isn't the best.
Ryan will shut the hell up.
I mean, it almost happened. And...
Thank God it didn't.
It's...
me too.
You know, when I sold the company, I just sort of said, because I had a
So
baby
keep
girl.
in mind, he said, "What would be a world without Star Wars?" And the first thing he goes to
I sold
is when he sold it. Isn't that crazy? Like, out of all the stuff, he didn't talk about how like it didn't get made, how people turned it down. The first thing he went to is when he's talking about when he sold the company to Disney. Like, I think that's interesting.
I got married, I had a different life, and I said, I'm gonna, and I didn't, because I knew it would take me another 10 years to make those films. And I said, and I was 69, and I said, I'm not gonna,
Your favorite number?
be doing this when I'm 79.
I don't even know what that means.
And I won't, it's time to let go and let somebody else do it. Even though, like with Empire Strikes Back and some, I ended up having to be on the set the whole time, but it's like, I was the only one that really knew what Star Wars was. And Kirsch and I were really good friends, so it was like, and so I was like the consultant, the
Someone's choking
advisor
in
who
the
actually knew the world.
audience.
Because there's a lot to it. The Force, nobody understood the Force. Nobody, what they do is, and then
So
they
right
start,
there, I think that's an interesting pause because he was about to give more details. He's talking about Disney at this point. He's saying nobody understands the Force, and he says what they do is, and then he cuts off, and I think he's going to say like they do their own thing or something like that. I would love to know what he was going to say there.
What is he? So he's saying like they don't understand like the concept of the Force and what it means and what it does.
Right.
Did they watch the original trilogy and the prequels where they clearly state and show what it is?
I don't know, but I'm just saying this is what he's saying.
Like
Like
maybe
he-
the intricacies they just don't understand.
there's
Like
just I don't know exactly what he's saying
spiritual
here,
aspect of it.
but
I'm
I
confused.
think it's an interesting thing.
Damn you,
So,
Disney.
here,
other ones when I sold the company, and they, a lot of those ideas that were in there sort of got lost. But
He's really trying to watch himself.
that's the way it is.
so sad.
Yeah.
So clearly, the guy has he has thoughts. Like I touched on before, he had 7, 8, and 9 that he was, had prepped and everything. He gave it to Disney. He said like, "Hey, Olive Branch, can you do this for me?" Disney was like, "Oh yeah, sure."
Yeah.
And then we got what we got.
We'll
and things
do it.
went. There's obviously a lot more intricacies to that, but like I said, you can go down that rabbit hole if you want to. It is interesting of what George's original plans, because he is on record talking about what actually 7, 8, and 9 would have looked like for those future films. So it's interesting. And then I think there's a couple more. Does he say this is the last point, or let's see?
If you give it up, you give it up.
That's
I wanna talk about your project.
Give it up with the
Yeah.
penis.
So very telling, right, Brian?
Yes.
It was very telling.
It was very telling. It told me a lot. There's a part of me though, and this is you might not agree, but it's like, George, you shouldn't have sold.
Well, you heard what he
Because-
said, though.
No, I understand. He was like, I'm 69, your favorite number. Did he say he was 69, just had a kid?
Yeah.
Or like he had a kid for some time, or like he
No,
had
no, no.
just
Yeah, they
had
were-
a kid.
They were growing up at that point.
Oh, I thought he meant like he just had
He
a
said
kid.
he
I
had
was like,
3
damn,
kids.
this dude's
He was 3 kids. He was
ain't
69.
messing around.
And it had taken him so
Wait,
much.
He was what?
He had 3 kids. He was 69 years old.
Oh, I thought he put an NG at the end.
No. He had 3 kids. He was 69 years old. And
He was 69
It took
on
him.
top of that.
It took him so long to make the previous films that he said it would have taken him another 10 years to work on 7, 8, 9. I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what he's talking about. So, and he said that I would be 79, and he says, by then, I guess he's saying like
It would have killed me, and I would have missed out on my
it
children.
would have taken a lot.
But
out
at the
of his
same
life.
time, I'm like, your vision would have more than likely transpired if you would have just done it.
right?
But at the same, I get
Because
it.
that was
I
his
get it.
thing. His
But at the
thing
same
was
time, you're handing it to a corporation that, as soon as you sign off, is going to have certain rights. So like, all right, oh yeah, we'll do what you want.
yeah.
So there's a part of me. It's like you can have
So-
criticisms, but you did sign off.
Yeah, and if you want some other further insight on the whole deal with Disney, Bob Iger, who's the CEO of Disney now, he has an autobiography that came out a few years back.
Yeah.
And in there, he talks about the deal with George Lucas, and he talks about kind of the conversations that they had. And from what people have said, I haven't had a chance to read it. I want to read it, but from what people have said, there was kind of like he kind of, I don't want to say swindled
He
him,
duped
but
him,
he
didn't he?
definitely,
Seems like
you know, he's a businessman, so he was able to kind of, same thing. He said, "Hey George, you're getting old,
he said
these
that
stories."
to him?
Well, in
Oh, you're getting old.
in one or another way.
You're gonna die soon, dude. Let me take this off your shoulders.
And what happens, if you're not around, where does Star Wars go from there? Kind of asking him that
Yeah.
question.
Well, he
And that
talked
kinda led
about
to it.
in the one interview that you sent me. He talks about how things weren't looking great at Fox, so he had some nervousness of like, what do I do? Like Fox
Yeah.
was kind of going downhill, obviously. So but there's a part of me. It's like, man, if you would have held on to that. But the thing is, even if he would have made his vision, there would have been criticisms. A lot of the things he's saying right now, he'd have to face then as well. He went a little too crazy with the CGI. Some would say.
But what he touches on in
I'm
this,
curious.
if you haven't watched this whole interview, I do suggest if you're just a fan of film. I mean, George Lucas, beyond Star Wars, though, has had a big impact on film and how films look today. He was also the main creator of Industrial Light and Magic, which is one of the first visual effects companies that have done any of the biggest visual effects you've seen in movies. If we go back to in early movies like Jurassic Park, the first big T-Rex CG shot we saw in the 1990s, that was ILM.
Breaking the wires.
They have done tons of stuff, and obviously Star Wars was one of their first big projects, but he's been influential all through the film industry, and he's one of those directors that is one of the Spielberg. When you think Spielberg, Scorsese, Coppola, there's these big name directors that when they work on something, it's something that a lot of eyes get to and a lot of attention, and there's a lot of hype around it. And I think he's one of those people. So if you're interested in film and also Star Wars, obviously, check out the interview. It's a full hour and a half long. We just took the snippets about Star Wars, but
you can make a night of it with your kids and your family. Make some popcorn, watch this interview.
Why not? And then watch Star Wars. But I'm going to leave
69.
you with what I was talking about. And clearly, I think that George is game for this. And he mentions about how when they made Empire Strikes Back, he essentially, even though Ivan Kershner directed the movie like on paper,
Yes,
George Lucas was on site. He helped write it. He was there to kind of make sure the movie was going along with his vision.
yeah.
And I think now he would be open. I think Disney made a mistake in not at least giving him the ability to be a advisor.
He signed off. Doesn't matter.
I know he signed off, but
You gave
I
him
would
the
have
rights.
extended the olive branch to say, come on. Now, there are times like for Mandalorian, he did come on set and like view things, but he's not.
He held Baby Yoda.
Yeah, but he's
Grogu.
not giving any creative. He's not having any
Wow.
creative stamp on the process.
Dave don't
at
need
all.
no help.
Okay. Well, anyhow,
Just being honest.
this is one way. One way I think things
picking a
would have
booger
been
right
a little bit better if he had the opportunity to actually be a full advisor and be part of that creative process. Like, imagine if they would have brought him in. Now, granted, there is a chance that maybe he would have overtaken things,
that's
and he would have been hard to work with. But
yeah.
but the thing is, I feel like he's owed that respect.
He's SW Papa.
Yes. He's owed that respect. So you have to give him at least the opportunity, maybe for at least 7, 8, 9. Then after 7, 8, 9, whatever else you do from there, like let him finish what he wants. What we know of is the last 3 movies that he wanted to do. Let him do that. And then if you want to start to like slowly cut ties, then sure, do that. But I think if they would have taken, why is that funny? Why is that funny? Is that funny?
No, go ahead.
I don't know.
You're just you're getting so passionate. This guy's getting passionate.
I've been
over
thinking
here.
about this all
He's
week.
been holding this in for a week.
Well, no, but this, if any proof, this shows us, for those people who are commenting and just saying that we're hating on it or, bashing it just to bash it. Clearly we're passionate. Clearly we know a lot. I'm not saying we know everything, but we know
Who's smarter than I am?
we're in the world of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, we're aware of it. We've been on this journey as well. So
That was
anyhow,
beautiful.
I wanted to leave it on that positive note that maybe
Oh, was that your whole thing?
that was the whole thing. Like, I think
Oh,
they could have fixed this if they would have.
just bring him on set. Let the old man walk around.
No, that's what
Oh.
they do now. I don't want them
they
to do
just
that.
let him walk around.
I want him to actually be in the writer's room and have part of the creative process where they can go and have him maybe
just
give some
wander.
notes on scripts or something like that before they go into production.
It would cause tension.
Who knows Star Wars more than George Lucas? I'm sorry, but he's got the ultimate bragging rights. The fact that he literally created this.
it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he's still alive, he still, I think, is owed that respect.
I think that the only person who would rival him is Brian Johnson.
Ryan Johnson.
I hate him so much, I forget his name.
You're saying Last Jedi Ryan Johnson?
His name's Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson.
Why would I even call him Brian?
Because
That's
your
my
name's
name.
Brian. That's your name.
That's how much I can't stand him.
Let us know in the comments, what did you like? What did you didn't like? That's fine. We're open to conversation. Again, don't be toxic. Like they're saying, you don't want to prove their
It's
point.
true.
So, just be respectful. Just be nice. If you have some criticisms, let us know. We're open to it. But if you have positive feedback, we would like that as well. And also too, if you like this episode, if you like what's on the channel, please consider subscribing. I'll drop a little
Right here.
button here on the screen that you can press. We'd love to have you join the Two Booze crew and stay with us for the journey here.
Two Booze Crew. I like that.
Yeah, it's
That's
fresh.
good.
We should get some merch maybe
Well.
down the road.
If we get
But-
50 subscribers.
Yes, we are at
Like
28
20,
subscribers.
28.
We are not ashamed to say that. If you can help us get to 50, we would love that. With that,
That's definitely confirmed.
we want to thank you guys for tuning in to
Yes,
this
thank
edition
you.
of the Two Booze podcast.
Yes.
Again, check us out on YouTube. Check us out in the audio form as well. If you're listening, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, pretty much wherever
It's
you
true.
get podcasts. We're also on social media. We have Instagram. That's Two Booze Podcast on Instagram. And we're also on X/Twitter, which is 2_booze. And check us out there as well. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Brian, I want to thank you for stopping by.
Boo, I
and
would like
joining
to
me.
thank you for letting me come over here.
It's my pleasure. So with that, thank you again for tuning in. And we are the Two Booze signing off.
God bless.
Peace.
Bye.